The outbreak of the Civil War, Fort Sumter and the early clashes. The Civil War, a pivotal chapter in American history, was ignited by deep-seated conflicts over slavery and states' rights. Tensions escalated as Southern states seceded following Abraham Lincoln's election, vehemently opposing his anti-slavery stance. Fort Sumter, located in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina, became a symbol of national division when Confederate forces targeted it. Its strategic position made it a focal point, marking the commencement of hostilities between the North and South. In the months leading up to the attack on Fort Sumter, the situation grew increasingly volatile. After South Carolina's secession in December 1860, several more states followed, intensifying the atmosphere as both sides prepared for inevitable conflict. Key figures in the early days of the Civil War included Abraham Lincoln, whose leadership would be tested in the coming conflict, and Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy, who directed the South's secessionist efforts. Fort Sumter's strategic significance was undeniable, commanding the entrance to Charleston Harbor. Its possession was crucial for controlling one of the South's major ports, thereby setting the stage for the initial confrontation of the Civil War. As tensions escalated between the North and South, the Union was keenly aware of the strategic importance of Fort Sumter. Preparation involved bolstering defenses and ensuring a supply line to the isolated outpost in Charleston Harbor. The Confederacy, recognizing the symbolic and strategic value of Fort Sumter, planned meticulously to seize control. Their strategy included amassing artillery in strategic positions around the harbor to prepare for a decisive strike at the fort. The artillery used in the attack on Fort Sumter was predominantly smoothbore cannons, which were effective for short-range bombardment. Confederate forces strategically positioned these cannons on the harbor's surrounding forts to maximize their impact. The bombardment of Fort Sumter began on April 12, 1861, marking the outbreak of the Civil War. The first shot, allegedly fired by Edmund Ruffin, echoed across Charleston Harbor, signaling the start of the conflict. Major Robert Anderson, the Union commander at Fort Sumter, played a crucial role during the bombardment. Despite limited resources and mounting pressures, Anderson's leadership and decision to withhold returning fire initially demonstrated strategic restraint. The civilian reaction to the outbreak of war at Fort Sumter was one of shock and mobilization. Across the North and South, communities grappled with the reality of a divided nation now at war. Media coverage of the attack on Fort Sumter played a crucial role in shaping public perception. Newspapers used sensational headlines and detailed reports to stoke the fires of patriotism and prepare citizens for the ensuing conflict. The immediate military aftermath of the bombardment at Fort Sumter saw a surge in enlistment. Both the Union and the Confederacy saw thousands of young men sign up, driven by a sense of duty and fervor. Fort Sumter's fall set a grim tone for the Civil War, demonstrating that the conflict would be neither quick nor bloodless. It served as a stark introduction to what would become a prolonged and brutal war. The military tactics employed at Fort Sumter, involving a prolonged artillery bombardment against a fortified position, highlighted the importance of artillery in the war and foreshadowed the devastating sieges that would characterize much of the conflict. The First Battle of Bull Run, fought in July 1861, marked the first major land battle of the American Civil War. Both Union and Confederate troops were unseasoned, revealing the raw nature of volunteer armies. This clash not only shattered the illusion of a short war, but also set a precedent for the long, grueling conflict that would ensue. Union forces, under the command of Brigadier General Irvin McDowell, faced off against Confederates led by Generals Beauregard and Johnston. Despite numerical superiority, the Union troops lacked the crucial experience and cohesiveness, factors that contributed significantly to their eventual retreat. Key leaders such as Confederate General Thomas Jackson earned the nickname Stonewall at Bull Run due to his steadfast defense that played a pivotal role in turning the tide of the battle. This nickname would stick with him throughout the war, symbolizing Confederate resolve. Tactical blunders marred the battle, notably the Union's underestimation of enemy strength and poor reconnaissance. Conversely, the Confederates capitalized on their interior lines and better understanding of the terrain, showcasing early adaptability in military strategy. The outcome at Bull Run had profound effects on civilian and political realms, stirring Confederate morale and shocking the Union into a sobering realization of the war's scope. It marked a critical pivot in America's national consciousness about the conflict's severity and length. The First Battle of Bull Run profoundly influenced subsequent military strategies, highlighting the need for better trained troops and improved logistics. Both sides realized that quick, decisive victories were unlikely, shifting focus towards sustained campaigns. The use of technology and weaponry in early Civil War battles, such as rifles and artillery, forced a re-evaluation of traditional combat tactics. Commanders learned to integrate new technologies with large-scale troop movements to increase effectiveness. The psychological impact on soldiers and commanders was significant after the initial battles. Early confrontations like Bull Run shattered the initial romanticism of war, replacing it with a stark reality of long-term conflict and casualties. Public expectations of the war's duration and brutality changed dramatically after the early battles. Initial enthusiasm waned as the bloody reality set in, leading to a more somber and strategic approach to public support and military engagement. The significance of railroads and logistical support became apparent as the war progressed. Effective use of rail transport could dramatically shift the balance, allowing for the rapid movement of troops and supplies, which was critical in prolonged engagements. Espionage and intelligence played crucial roles in shaping early Civil War strategies. Both the Union and Confederacy used spies to gather critical information, which influenced battle plans and troop movements, heightening the war's strategic complexity. European observers closely monitored the early Civil War battles, providing key insights and reports that influenced international perspectives. Their observations helped shape foreign policy decisions regarding the conflict, particularly in Britain and France. The evolution of military uniforms and equipment from Fort Sumpter to Bull Run marked significant changes in soldier readiness and warfare tactics. These adaptations reflected the escalating intensity and scale of the conflict as both sides prepared for prolonged engagement. The early battles of the Civil War had profound impacts on slavery and the abolitionist movement. Incidents like Bull Run stirred national debate and pushed the issue of emancipation to the forefront, altering the war's moral and political stakes. The lessons learned from early Civil War battles like Fort Sumpter and Bull Run left a lasting historical legacy. They highlighted the need for better strategic planning, logistics, and the importance of intelligence in military success.